A major boost for the NHS, defence and affordable homes. The Chancellor announced billions of pounds of investment yesterday to renew Britain as she laid out her much-awaited spending review.
The Shadow Chancellor, Sir Mel Stride, criticised the announcement, calling it a spend now, raise taxes later review. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, joins us from Derby. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It must have been a slightly bad news, then, to get the growth figures, GDP down.
So the numbers this morning for growth are disappointing, but it is notoriously volatile, the monthly GDP numbers. And if you take the three-month average, or the three-month number, that's 0.7% growth. And April was the month that the US tariffs came in. And if you dig into the numbers published today, trade is weak, production is weak. And that's not really surprising given that uncertainty. Since then, of course, we've secured 3 trade deals with the US, with the EU and with India as well. And so I don't think we should read perhaps too much into 1 month's numbers.
Yeah.
But I recognise that economic growth has not been strong enough for a long time.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And growth is something that you have trumpeted. And you would celebrate it if those growth figures were up, of course. The issue is people very worried about how your plans are going to affect their budgets, because the cost of living is everyone's #1 concern. So can I ask you this morning, what taxes are going to go up to pay for your spending plans?
No, all of the spending plans I announced yesterday were funded through what I did in the budget last year. I'm not spending a penny more or a penny less than what I set out in the budget last April and then in the spring statement in March. And so what I've done is allocate the money that we had already raised as a government.
Well,
and so people shouldn't have a concern that...
But you have already done a U-turn on at least one thing you did in your budget, because, of course, you had budgeted that you would have £1.5 billion extra because you'd taken away the winter fuel allowance. You then reinstated that earlier this year. That's not costed or funded, is it?
Well, we didn't reinstate it in full, but you're right that more pensioners will receive the winter fuel allowance this year. 75% will receive it. It's still going to be means tested. That's the right thing to do because the wealthiest pensioners shouldn't have their fuel bills subsidised.
Yeah, but my point is you have made announcements which are not...
Go out to
it's
work.
An announcement that has not been funded. So currently your sums don't add up.
Well, that will be paid out in the winter, and before then we will have another forecast from the Office of Budget Responsibility, and we will ensure that that is fully funded. But, you know, we've had 3 trade deals, the substantial investment in the spending review yesterday, and all of those things will be taken account when the next forecast is done and before any money is paid out.
I want to take you back to your previous answer. You're saying that every penny is accounted for in the review that you announced yesterday. Every single economist that you can shake a stick at this morning, on the left, on the right and in the centre, are saying that you will have to raise taxes. Are you saying to us categorically here this morning that that won't be necessary?
Well, no Chancellor is going to write future budgets before you've even had a forecast, before you know the economic situation. But everything I set out yesterday was funded within the envelope that I set out in the budget last year and then in the spring. And that's what the spending review did. We've now set the budgets for day-to-day spending for the next 3 years, capital spending for the rest of this Parliament, with a focus on the priorities of the British people. So keeping our country safe, investing in our health service and also investing in the things that are needed to grow our economy, whether that is transport to better connect our towns and cities, energy to give us energy security and bring bills down, and also affordable housing so that more families can have a home of their own.
All right, we'll come back to some details of your review in just a second, but let's not mince words, Chancellor. I mean, you've had a terrible start to your job, haven't you? I mean, the winter fuel allowance debacle, which is what it was, and massive U-turn. Of course, on a personal level, you had the accusations of exaggerating your personal CV, the row over all the freebies that you accepted, and you and I have exchanged questions and answers about that, so I won't go over that again. You're less popular now than Kwasi Kwarteng was after the Liz Truss car crash budget. Do you not wish you'd done things a bit differently in this first year?
I faced a difficult inheritance when I became Chancellor last year. There was a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. The previous government was spending money it didn't have, and I had to make a number of difficult decisions. But that's my responsibility as Chancellor, to make sure that the sums do add up, because if they don't, you end up going the way of Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, crashing the economy, sending mortgage rates through the roof and putting people's pensions in peril. And I'm never going to take those risks with the public finances. But it does involve difficult decisions, but I'm not going to shy away from those because that is my job as Chancellor. And yesterday, because of the decisions that we have made, we were able to allocate more money for health, more money for defence and more money to build the homes that our country desperately needs.
Despite all of that,
I think people will see yesterday a real focus on the priorities of the British people.
Despite all of that, would you accept, being honest about it, that you're in a far weaker position as Chancellor of the Exchequer this morning than you were when you came to the job?
Well, I don't regard doing my job as trying to win a popularity contest. My job is to make sure that working people are better off. And I think that people will see in the decisions that I made yesterday, whether it is free school meals for kids whose parents are on universal credit, increasing the number of homes that we're going to insulate so that that cuts people's energy bills, rolling out breakfast clubs at primary schools, more childcare for working families, but also putting investment into our National Health Service, more scanners in our hospitals, more ambulances in our ambulance fleet, proper pay rises for our frontline public services, servants, our police, our nurses and doctors, our armed forces. Those are the decisions that I was able to make yesterday because of the difficult decisions that I had to do early on as Chancellor. But that's what Chancellor has to do, and that's what I did yesterday.
We've seen this week unemployment going up, growth going down. We've seen your Chief Secretary to the Treasury saying that he's working on the assumption councils will continue to raise council tax. And you aren't able to provide a guarantee that other taxes won't go up in the autumn. You said that you wouldn't put up taxes on working people. Of course, employers' rates, national insurance did go up. Do you see a possibility that you're going to tax business, tax working people, tax employers? And do you also acknowledge that this is going to get harder for people watching this morning?
We made a commitment in our manifesto not to increase the key taxes that working people pay, their income tax, their national insurance and their VAT. And that's something that I've stuck to and I will continue to stick to. It was a manifesto commitment and it remains for the whole of this Parliament. And the reason we made that commitment is because I recognise the huge strain that family finances have been under these last few years. Now, wages have increased more in the first 10 months of this Labour government than they did in the first 10 years of the last Conservative government. But I do acknowledge that not enough people are feeling that yet, which is why yesterday I put money into things to grow our economy in all parts of the country, because wherever people live, I want them to have opportunities and I want them to benefit as the economy grows with more money in working people's pockets. So I can confirm that those commitments still stand.
Rachel Reeves, Chancellor, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.